Hi, my name is Brandon Hamer, Director of Research and Development for Aurora Cooperative, and today's agronomy update is brought to you by the Nebraska Soybean Board. So today we're standing in front of our soybean research field here in Aurora, Nebraska. As you can see behind me, we're rapidly approaching harvest. We're starting to see some leaves drop. The beans are starting to turn, and we're getting to that anxious time where we start considering harvest and get to see what we have. So there's three things we consider as we approach harvest. We're going to talk about those three things today. Desiccation of soybeans as a harvest aid. Second thing, storage of soybeans on farm. And the third thing we'd like to talk about is just documentation and keeping track of those things that may be affecting our fields as we go through at harvest time. So the first thing we want to talk about is soybean desiccation. Some of you may ask, what is a desiccation program? If you haven't heard of that, that's where we go out and we prematurely finish the soybeans off with a chemical application. Couple big reasons why we would do that. First off, perhaps we didn't have great weed control. We've had some escapes, especially when we consider Palmer amaranth. That's a very tough weed to control. Often we get a lot of it that pops up late in our fields. And typically we'll have a very big stem, very hard to run through the combine, especially if we have heavy infestations. And so desiccation will allow us to go out and kill those weeds along with the soybeans instead of having to wait for a frost. We always get worried about when will that frost come. If it's a late frost, we leave those soybeans exposed to Mother Nature for a long time. And sometimes while we're waiting for the weeds to dry down, so do our soybeans, and we get into those lower moistures where we give up yield and moisture in the soybeans, and we end up harvesting 7 to 8% soybeans. Some guys will choose to do a desiccation program just to speed up harvest. If you've got multiple varieties or maturities in a field, one variety might be ready, the other still lagging behind, and so we can desiccate and get that field a little more uniform for harvest. Maybe capture that moisture, try to time up those with our harvest timing to capture more 13%, 14% moisture soybeans. The other thing that we see is we have indeterminate soybeans primarily planted in Nebraska. And so we have various stages of development. So we may still see some green pods that we want to finish off. If you're looking at some beans that maybe had some drowned out or flooding issues or late emergence, we may have ununiform parts of the field that are still green, whereas the top end of the field may be ready to harvest. So a couple reasons why we consider desiccation. 2 ounces of sharpen with some surfactants. We can come back in 5 days with a pre-harvest interval typically and harvest those soybeans if we have the nice conditions, sunny weather, so forth. There are some other options out there that maybe are more of a 14-day pre-harvest interval. So again, reach out to your agronomist, understand your labels and your options, and they can set you up with a good program. Second thing we want to talk about is on-farm storage of soybeans. Again, a couple considerations is we really want those soybeans dry. Storing wet soybeans, if that's something you're going to do, you'll need to have the ability to put air to them. 13% moisture is the target. We can go down to 11% and still be pretty effective in that range. Once we get beans drier than that, we get into concerns of splits and damage coming in and out of the bin. And so we want to be careful of that. Other consideration of storing soybeans early here is just the temperature of the grain. A lot of times we're still in the 70, 80 degree window here. So again, we'll need to be able to cool that crop down later in the bin. So airflow and the ability to monitor bins is very key. We want to avoid any green stems. We want very clean samples. So we've got to do our due diligence setting the combine and make sure that we're not pulling those green pods and stems and extra foreign material in, because that will cause us those hot pockets. And the disadvantage of storing soybeans is there is risk that if the soybeans start to turn bad, we don't have some of the options we do with corn. And we got to be very cautious of that and know what we're doing. So please reach out and have those conversations with grain folks that have done this before, or perhaps your neighbor, and make sure we're very aware of what we're doing. Third thing that I always find very important that we need to focus on is recording data. We all have yield monitors and we all focus on yield, but as we consider our soybean purchases for next year, what we want to plant where. It's very important to keep track of field histories. If we have soybean cyst nematode pressure in a field that causes a lot of sudden death, we need to remember that for 2-3 years down the road when we go back and put soybeans on that field. If we've had problems with white mold, again, that's something we got to keep in our back pocket, in our memory bank for future years and considerations when we select varieties, when we consider our crop protection programs. Very important to remember. Also our weed species and mixing up some of our herbicide programs. As we look to the future, there's more tools coming, more traits, more combinations that we can spray on fields, but we want to keep that history of what have we rotated to, what technology platforms are we using as far as traits, and then what herbicide programs are we pairing up with that. We want to avoid resistance at all possible, so mix and matching programs is a very important consideration that we consider when we're working with growers here and looking to the future. Thanks for watching today's agronomy update, brought to you by the Nebraska Soybean Board.